The reason for which I've chosen the automation and electronics industry is because it is one of the leading manufacturing sectors in all industrialized and industrializing countries in the world. Due to its wide use in all other industries, the automation market is strongly linked to the macroeconomic conditions and is also considered a leading indicator of the health of an economy. Growth in this automation and electronics market affects all other end user and industries such as consumer electronics and computers. So due to its strong influence on the economy in other industries, trends in this space are thoroughly tracked. So the company I'll be presenting today is called Shenzhen Inovance Technology. I'll give you a brief overview of what I'll be going over during this presentation. So I'll be starting with the problematic and the hypothesis, and I'll be doing an external analysis including a pestle, five forces analysis, and I'll be continuing to the internal analysis of the company, including the company history, value creation, scarcity, competitive and corporate strategy, blue versus red ocean, and finally the conclusion. So to start off with, our hypothesis is that companies in China have been following a trend recently where their strategies have been shifting from red ocean to blue ocean strategies. And our group will show and analyze three big companies. So my own company, Shenzhen Inovance, Curtis's company, Mobile Telecom, China Mobile Telecom, and Aldrich's company, which was Sunny Group, which are all in different sectors in order to prove or disprove our hypothesis. So I'll be starting off with an external analysis including political, economic, social, cultural, technological, and legal factors. So political factors. The People's Republic of China is basically a single-party state governed by the Communist Party of China. What this means for companies that tariffs are usually very high, although they're on a decreasing slope over the recent years, and there's very high political risk in the country. Moving on to economic factors, the GDP of the country is of, according to last year's figures, $12 trillion with a GDP growth of 8%, according to the CIA World Factbook. They have a huge labor force of about 850 million people, 46.9% of them in industry, 43% in services, and the resting 10% in agriculture. It is a country which exports many products, mainly machinery and equipment, plastics, optical and medical equipment, iron and steel, which equal to a little bit over $1.5 trillion. It's also a big importer at $1.3 trillion of machinery and equipment, oil and mineral fuels, plastics, iron and steel. They have a large amount of low cost and low specialized labor, which could pose a problem to the growth of the market, which is the automation market, the market in which my company operates in. China has recently joined the WTO, the World Trade Organization, in order to increase the competitiveness in the global markets. And an interesting point is that analysts forecast that the automation market in China will grow at an annual rate of about 16.05% over the next 4 years. So social culture factors. China is a country with many distinct cultures, a total of 56 different ethnic groups. And an important point to point out is that establishing relationships with suppliers is really essential. Another point which is important to talk about is the overcautious stance of China considering entering the free market arena. Basically, China has a very high degree of reluctance towards foreign trade, as can be indicated by their past and present trade partners. Technological factors. So science and technology has been developing very quickly in the recent decades in China. Basically, Chinese governments have put a lot of emphasis in that through mainly funding, reforms, and societal status on science and technology as part of the socio-economic development of their country. There's also been very rapid advances recently in education, infrastructure, high-tech manufacturing, patents, and others. The regulatory environment in China is something which is very complex. Basically, the government plays a major role in the economy of the country and the business environment, which can make entry to the market very difficult for new companies. So next I'll be going over briefly Porter's 5 forces analysis, which includes the bargaining power of suppliers, the bargaining power of customers, threat of substitute products, threat of new competitors, and finally competitive rivalry within the industry. So I'll be rating each of them with a rating of between 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest. the bargaining power of suppliers, basically there's very high competition amongst suppliers in the market. There's a very diverse amount of distribution channels, and the volume is very critical to suppliers. All 3 points which benefit to quite low bargaining power of suppliers, for the reasons which I've rated that at a 2. I've also given 2 to bargaining power of customers, due to the fact that the product is very important to them. There's a very large number of customers, and limited by choice, due to the fact there's relatively limited number of substitute products. According to the threat of substitute products, so substitutes are quite of lower performance, they're lower quality, and switching costs are usually very high for customers, which are all factors which also contribute to quite low threat of substitute products, for which I've given this also a 2. Threat of new competitors, I've given this a 1. I think this is very, very low. There's a brand name is something which is very important in this market. Very advanced technologies are required, which means that there's a very high amount of capital that you need to start off in this market, and customers are already very loyal to the existing brands, which are all factors which really increase the entry barriers and therefore decrease the threat of new competition. And finally, the competitive rivalry within the industry, I've given this a 2, due to the fact that the industry is very large in size, has a very high growth rate, and exit barriers are actually quite low, which are all factors also which reduce the competitive rivalry within the industry. Now I'll be continuing with the internal analysis. As I've mentioned before, the company history, value creation, scarcity, competitive and corporate strategy, and blue versus red ocean. So a brief history of the company. Shenzhen Inovance is a company which is relatively recent. It was established a little bit more than a decade ago, in 2003. It's a public company which focuses on R&D, research and development, manufacture and sales of industrial automation products, aiming to service high-end original equipment manufacturers. Their line of products include low voltage inverters, motion controls, automation controls, drivers for cranes, elevators and plastic machines. So value creation, basically Shenzhen Inovance really puts emphasis on value, not only value creation, but value innovation. They combine cutting-edge technology with a solid grasp of micro markets, position themselves in the high ends, competing with top international brands, and as a result, Inovance has become the #1 brand for frequency converters in China, and one of the top 3 providers for elevator controls, also in China. So value innovation is basically a strategic move that allows for companies to create blue ocean markets and offer buyers a huge leap in value that gives rise to new markets. For scarcity, the only things I could find was that I believe the company is restricted too much on the national demand and should therefore look to expand a little bit more internationally. About competitive and corporate strategy, the key factors for the company is that they're a leader in technology, they emphasize in continuous innovation, offer very high quality products, develop and deliver top quality service. So a little bit of generic about what blue versus red ocean strategy is. Basically, red ocean strategy is when a company competes in its existing marketplace in order to try to beat the competition by exploiting existing demand. They make the value cost trade-off and align the firm's activities with the strategic choice of either differentiation or low cost. On the other hand, blue ocean strategy looks to create uncontested marketplaces by making the competition irrelevant, and instead of exploiting existing demand, they try to create and capture completely new demand. And instead of either choosing between differentiation and low cost, they pursue differentiation and low cost. So industries in China are very good at copying and very poor at innovation, as all of us know, which has resulted in today's red ocean situation that Chinese companies faces. This in turn has contributed to the fact that more than 80% of private companies in China has an average life of only 2.9 years. So Shenzhen Inovance, by using cutting-edge technology and entering markets at the right time, considering both innovation, application and cost, has been able to enter blue ocean markets. So in order to conclude, our initial hypothesis was that companies in China have been following a trend recently where the strategies have been shifting from red to blue ocean strategies. And after analyzing the 3 companies shown, including my own, Sany and China Telecom, we may conclude that our hypothesis is confirmed. So thank you very much for my presentation.